Welcome to another podcast from Traders Community, brought to you by traderscommunity.com. We're going to quickly go through the markets. Another sideways days as far as stocks go. Most times we would look at oil and gas, some levels there we can look at, and strategies there too. We had the EIA number out today for oil. We'll have it out tomorrow for natural gas. We'll talk about what happened in natural gas also. And, of course, the market's all setting up for the CPI, how that's going to react in bond markets. So, without further ado, and just remember, not financial advice, so do your own research. Understand your own limits, what you're doing, and really it's for educational purposes. So, as I said today, a massive day on oil. We are basically over 122 on WTI. And we had a dramatic fall, which we're going to talk about when we get to natural gas. But we fell from over 960 to under 850, so over $1. And remember, we went through that yesterday, the setup on that. So that shouldn't have been unexpected. Right there, more as far as the other big mover today was dollar yen, continues to go up over 20-year highs now. More of that, and that's obviously also affecting things like bond auctions. And that we had the 10-year today, which was a D minus, following yesterday's similar for 3-year, and we have the 30-year to come. Okay, S&P. As I've said, it's just churning on those levels in a corrective wave, so it's best to avoid them, right? Which can be very hard if you're very bullish or very bearish. You can get chopped up. So the best trade is sit on your hands. The Russell, 1892, Vol continues to fall away, and the Nasdaq, 1269. So let's start off with the SPOOs. As we've been talking ad nauseum, what's going on, let's look at that specifically. So on the weekly, as you know, we've been talking about the resistance and what the short off is off this weekly tanker. The longer it's under it, building pressure without falling away, the higher the probability, obviously, that becomes a wave. But until a pennant, sorry. And so then you watch for continuation, which would make this more 1, 2, 3. So you watch that, you watch what the algos are doing, and things like it's good to look at chatter, how bullish people are, how bearish, vol, and stuff like that, as we've sped ad nauseum. So really, so we know where we are here. Let's just get the marker. And here is the glorious Madavi, all accepted, doing his workout, it appears. He loves to do his jumping jacks to the YMCA, as we all do.
YMCA, you know, after I seen your cop outfit, mate, made me think of that song.
Where is, there it is. So that level, and remember, each day this moves down, right? Each week, and a little bit each day. So right now that's 41.75, which is basically the high. So remember, we're short up here. And we've been riding this out and lowering our stop each day. So you give that a little bit of room. So if you go to daily, and remember, if it all holds, you got all this below. So that's your high probability trade. On the daily, it's the other side, right? So you can see how it's being compressed. See how the daily tanking is holding it up. So it keeps coming down, it comes down. So you've got these two levels, and what that means is you're getting compression and a pennant. So that's continuation, right? If it continues up, and that would put it through that daily level. Pretty straightforward. If I show you a 240, you can see why you want to avoid it. Look at this. Because what happens is a lot of the particularly those that anxiety that need to trade, they tend to be buying here and selling here, right? And in reality, we're just chopping around. And I think the guy Wifey that on Twitter that I've suggested follow, because he runs algorithms, very good measure. He harps on, as I said, around also that you don't get in on these patterns. Now, if you're just a pure scalper, that's your job. You're good money buying off these rigs, but most of you aren't going to be doing that. Okay, let's look at the NASDAQ. Almost identical, even more choppy though. So this is a 60-minute. Look at this chop. I mean, you see that, Madawi? It's
terrible.
And that's what we say. I just say don't bloody trade until. So the only trade I've done is that one sell from last week. Yeah. Until you wait for it to happen, right? Rome wasn't built in a day. And patience is one of those great virtues in life. And trading very much so.
That I must work on. Just terrible. Just got smoked and playing that crap.
Yeah. So you tend to get.
I cut up, but very disappointing in myself.
So it's hard to sit on your hands. I mean, I'm pretty good at it. But then I miss shit too. So, and I tend to get out too early because I'm disciplined as hell. But every now and then, sorry, mate.
Oh, even with a chop, I mean, I still had an okay day, but man, it was so messed up. I mean, I was right there. I was back in the. I'm just talking about spoos, you know.
Oh,
I was right
spoos,
back.
I mean,
I held on a little bit longer, thinking for the next glorious move, and never came.
Well, so that's what the chops do. They keep you in. You're short down here, and then it doesn't make it. But the other thing it does, it takes your focus away to be very short term, and invariably you're going to miss a bigger level, right? That's what also happens, and it's stressful. And remember, I'm all about being mentally. You try to be mental because it's a stressful, draining job, and you're going to get losers. Like I've been stopped out on that Bumble thing, right?
The funny thing is, I could have made a killer amount if I would have just took in the small, like 1s and 2s and 3s. And I didn't.
Well, that's the other thing. Yeah, just scalp like we did on some of those stocks today. Yeah, but
nice.
Or you just take a holiday, and wait for the next big one. But depends how you want to do it. So let's look. What did crypto do today? We didn't really look at it. But yesterday we looked at this yesterday. That's Ethereum. Let's look at Bitmax. So this is a 10-minute chart. Remember what we were talking about yesterday? It had this massive wipe and that wipe up. So same sort of thing. But look at this, all this compression. Like, this is what's bizarre with crypto. This is what tells me it's just run by a few. It has these massive moves, and then it does this. And then what happens is, it reminds me of Natty, which we're about to look at. People then get comfortable, and then they put on massive positions, then they blow out like this, Where does that look on a weekly? Yeah, it's still in that flag. Look at all these spike bars. I mean, so the punter will tell you that, yeah, that's opportunity. I can buy here, sell there. The dribbler will tell you he's already done it and bought down here and sold there because he hasn't.
Gambler will tell you he's still at it.
Right. So that's why I mentioned those two. So as far as the commodities, nothing new except for these. And this is really what's going on. I remember some smart-ass sent a message to me on Twitter. Oh, how are you enjoying your oil short? Obviously has no idea what we do, who we are, or obviously never listened to a podcast. But that's the feelings, usually the dribbler that probably has 5 shares in an oil stock or something, or worked for an oil company. Who knows? But there's a lot of morons out there. So we're going to talk about Natty first. As I've said ad nauseum, this is a 305. We're over 888s. So we're trading it from the short side as it comes up. And the reason is, when everyone's one way, it doesn't take much to fall. Look what happened on the daily. So it was pretty easy short here. And there was 2 things, buying cold, KOLD, and shorting the futures, right? They were the obvious, easier ways. That's the way we do it. So what happened was, again, look how overbought it is, over 4/8, 8/8. And once it gets under that highs, is the sell. You can if you're big, you can selling up here. But that confirmation came at 9:53. Now, you can see where it finished, right? And there's a reason for that, but I'm going to show you a 5-minute the chart. So people don't realize how fast and how big these points are and how hard it is to get filled. These spreads widen. What happened here, Freeport LNG made a statement, came out and said, I think it was on Facebook, but anyway, they made a statement that the police reported it, when they covered up, apparently it was on Facebook, when they came back with what was going on, that there was an explosion there, where all, obviously, balls long, the dribblers are in it, as soon as that news hits, people that knew, shit, that's LNG, bang, wise this up, right? And remember, if you can't move your LNG, remember how you store gas, then the demand is collapsed. That's a full $1.20 move in minutes, right? This whole move was 20 minutes. And now we got this congestion. So that gives you an idea, and why we try to caution that. If you miss the bulk of the move, you miss it. So move on to something else. So oil, if you're more familiar with oil, you see this all the time in oil, right? So oil has so many different news bombs. You have the geopolitical stuff with the Saudi, Middle East, with Russia, U.S. things like SPR and all that. Well, they've been selling SPR. Joe Biden, I think it was over 56. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this was the first lot. We are now at 122. So remember what strategic reserves meant to mean. It's meant to be like war or something like that. I mean, a war here. So now that's at massive, massive lows. So in today's EIA report, if you want to go to the website, you'll see it there, around the barrel. But there was a shift of about 7. It was the biggest ever, I think, or it may be, but it was up there. 7 million barrels, and where that went was order pad 3, which basically is for export. So give you an idea what's going on, right? That is that. So you can see that on weekly. If you go to daily, just constant. But look how people don't think technicals work. If you use the right ones and you understand them, this powerful move here is 114. So that's a $10 move. That used to be considered a big move. Okay, individually on oil, we saw the two big ones, Exxon and Chevron. Is this where, let me see where we got Exxon charts, hit all-time highs today. So bear in mind, so this is the interesting dichotomy. So people that would normally be in bonds are in these stocks. More conservative, respect the payout, they got it down lower, and so they're staying in that. And the reason I mention that is it was another weak bond auction today. Not just domestically, also foreign. It was like, and so again, that's on the website. So if we look at Exxon just motoring again technically. So if you look at this chart, and if we go to weekly, so this got down here. This is a 1-2. Now we're going to fiddle with some stuff while we got you here. Price expansion. So if we do the old 1-2 rule, right, so that means basically that move it corrects. That's your first power move. And so, yeah, if you, as I've said before, get Sierra Trade's really good for this. So if you remember, this was one level where it really did stuff. I think we might have even sold some calls here. Around 96. So that was because of the 161.8 retracement. Now, the reason I've marked this real simple is that's where the broke come from. See the break? That was also the 1-2, and that was the end of the world when they were dancing on its grave. So if this holds, 261.8 is 124. That's just one way of looking on it. So psychologically, it means more people are churning into these things at the end of their rally. But bear in mind, I mean, we're long at these kind of levels. We've been talking about this for a long time. Bear in mind at any time, and we saw that on, what was that stock today, Madavi? The fracking stock, can't remember, the sands. When they fall, everyone's one way. You saw that on natural gas. And what a lot of these scam artists, and it's a nice way of putting them, these analysts, will downgrade or upgrade overnight.
Yeah, I agree.
So you got to be wary, and you never go broke taking a profit. It sounds boring as all heck, but you don't, right?
You go broke not taking profits.
Right. So sometimes you get out too early. It's better than too late, right? And sometimes we can get stubborn, and your mind can play different things, and we all do it. We all take losses we shouldn't take sometimes because we thought, that'll come back because you get caught or something.
But the greed is such a big factor until the fear sets in.
Right. Yeah. So you got to control both of those. So I just want to show you this. This I got off Briefing, who's another little good site. So an hour to go to the close. So we just showed you. This is on tradescommunity.com on today's report. I showed you Chevron and Exxon. So this is before it. But look at these. Halliburton at 1.7%. Best performer in the sector. Best level in 4 years. Exxon Mobil hit a record high. Baker Hughes, best level since March. Chevron, record high. Schlumberger, best level since 19. So what's that? 3 years. EOG, that's one of the masters of... So EOG and Devon are two of the real favourites for natural gas. But EOG, which is the one they call the Apple of the Permian or the shale, I think. Forget, but it's one of those. Anyway, fresh record high. Hess, highest since '08. ConocoPhillips, another record high. Phillips, highest in 2 years. Valero, fresh record high. But notice what it says on Valero. It then ended up turning negative. So you can be greedy and hope it just goes on forever, but that's not real, is it? And I mentioned yesterday, if you're from these commodity countries, you just know it's going to happen at some point. You know, if you get out early, it's better than late. Diamondback hit another fresh record high again before turning negative, right? Occidental Petroleum was the weakest performer, and they got downgraded yesterday. I think that's the reason for that. And you've got all the other data here, what's going on in England, France, Europe, Japan, it's all here. And it's all put together here, so it's a good point for macro. So notice the only sector up today, energy. Everything else was down, right? So underneath it all that's keeping this up is basically energy and certain mega caps, right? So the biggest stocks today were like Las Vegas, Wynn. I'm not sure why. I can't say I trade them. But obviously everything's sectional, and people, all of a sudden, if you just listen to any of the CNBC dribblers, Madavi's favourite bull, Tom Lee, right? They never admit they're wrong. They don't talk about any of the downside we just came from because they don't actually have skin in the game. It's their job is to bullshit and market and get you to think about it. So that's that. Tomorrow, what do we have? Tomorrow's Thursday, so you're going to have Billy, which is a Chinese stock, FCell, Neo is another Chinese stock. Before the market, I know it. I think SIG is Signet Jewelers. After the market, we got Doco. They were up big yesterday because of deal with MSoft. Then you've got MTN and SFIX, a couple of dribblers. So as far as news today, what's tomorrow? It's Thursday. So you're going to get, remember, every Thursday you get the weekly jobs, you get the weekly natural gas, and you got a 30-year bond. But the big one is Friday. You got CPI and consumer sentiment right after it. So there you have it. I think anything else you want to add, mate?
No, that's it, man. Just basically a choppy day again. I made a few bucks, nothing to write home about, you know.
And you got a 30-year bond.
Wish it was better.
Regulations makes me think that they actually...
Yeah, so the difference is, of course, CPI and consumer sentiment right after. Again, so I'm fortunate that I don't just trade futures, I guess, but energy. So, but bear in mind, energy was in the doldrums for years, right? Especially natural gas. So you got to keep that in mind. And if you're a lot of the stock market, particularly people call the dribblers that knew everything, were all about that, the latest thing in energy. In tech, and they hated energy. So what you want to know in simple time logic, let's keep it simple, is when that dribbler is all over telling you to buy energy. We saw a bunch of them telling you to buy aluminium or aluminum up the top, just to name one. I mean, you see it all the time, right? You saw them all telling you to buy silver at the top. So just keep all that in mind. Keep it tight. Watch it. There's going to be a hell of a short at some point in all this, right? Just look what natural gas did. A dollar move to over 10% in minutes, right? And I give you the tip, unless you're actually trading on a desk, you're not going to know that news till after the event, right? That moved that market. So just keep that in mind. And if you had stops, expect slippage. So anyway, that is us sharing our views with you. I hope you found it useful. If you do, share it. If you got any questions for us, get back with us. And if you're enjoying it, if you would prefer us just to do this on a weekly basis, let us know, because it is pretty time consuming. So let us know, right? Anything else, brother?
No, that's it.
So subscribe, like. If you can't be cool, be messy, and we will see you at the roundabout. Bye now. Matt, watch bonds and currencies tomorrow, not just energy. Especially that yen, and watch that 10 and 30. Got an auction.